Patrick Daly and welcome to Interlinks. Interlinks is a program about international business and globalization and the effects these have had on our life, our work and our travel over the last 50 years or so. In each program, we interview a person from another country or with strong connections to another country to get their unique perspective on these matters and how they've affected their life, their work, and their business. There's a little bit of history, a dash of economics, sprinkling of business, and an overlay of personal experience, both from me and from my interviewees from around the world. Today, we will be talking to Javier Diaz, a young professional with wide experience and impressive track record in international sales, business development, and brand building. Javier is Spanish and hails from Oviedo in the Principality of Asturias, which is tucked in between the mountains and the sea on the north coast of Spain, about halfway between Santander and La Corunna. Javier is currently based in Prague in the Czech Republic and has also lived in Germany. He studied law at the University of Oviedo in his hometown and then went on to do a master's in international trade. He gained experience in international sales in Germany for a number of years with companies such as Clima and DEMAT GmbH. After Germany, Javier moved to Prague and became a freelancer working internationally with clients such as Sandemans New Europe Tours, Memsource and Bureau Works, particularly in the technology space for translation and localization services. Javier has recently launched his own consultancy company, Global Brand Champs, to bring the benefits of his extensive experience as a brand champion to his international clients. So, Javier, thank you for being here with us today.
Hi, how's everyone doing? Thanks, Patrick, for having me here.
You're very welcome. Good to talk to you. Tell us a little bit about your career progression to date, since the beginning up to where we are now.
Oh, sure. Well, as you said perfectly before, I come from the north of Spain. Provincial guy from Spain. I finished my school in the year 2000. Then I started law. I was just like many of us students back then, that we didn't know what to study, so we all studied law. And then a couple of years into the career, I said, "This is not for me. Let's focus on something else, but let's finish it." And then that's when I found my passion. I found a way to convey my passion for traveling, connecting people, etc. And what I wanted to do with life by doing international business, right? So I decided to finish what I was studying, and I applied for a master in international business that would allow me to live abroad for a year and work in a Spanish company from one of the organisms international promotional organisms for companies that are exporting abroad in Asturias. It led me to live in the States. It led me to live then afterwards in Germany. And as you said, now in Prague, I've been here for the last 5 years. Actually, in a week, it's going to be exactly 5 years. And I've probably had the best experience of my life while I've been living here, because I've been based here, but working with the United States, basically traveling to California, spending 3 months a year there, working and helping people in clients in Silicon Valley. So here I am.
There you are. So I lived in Spain for many, many years, right?
Yeah. And your accent is perfect, yeah.
And when I was there, I became familiar, with the stereotypical young Spaniard. They go to university, they do the exams for the civil service, they work in the public sector, and they're addicted to this security, safe wage, and live close to their parents and all of this thing. But that's not you. So why not? On the one hand, and is that stereotype now dead? Is that stereotypical young Spaniard gone now?
I'd say definitely yes, in capital letters. That's a thing of the past. That's a thing of another era, so to say. I think that now for us millennials, flexibility is key. Mm-hmm. And the access to those kind of, to that security that such job as you're mentioning would give you is every day is smaller every day. There's not those many offerings now out there. There's more of us. And actually, I'm surprised to see that every time I go to Spain, well, maybe not in Asturias, because Asturias is way more traditional, but in places like Barcelona and Madrid, where I go for a travel business often, I'm surprised to see people my age, between 30 and 40, as I am, to be working in technological companies, to be entrepreneuring and leading companies, and it's cool. I think that goes more with the trends that are all around the world, the entrepreneurial world, the a more globalized world, and and just the trends they just lead to being like really far from that stereotype of Spanish guy that just goes to university, applies for the state exams, and gets a job that gives him a certain amount of money a month for the rest of his life, right? I think that's disappearing, and that's not sustainable for the system either, right?
Yeah, it was probably changing, but I think probably the recession in 2008, 2010 had a big impact on the mentality of young Spanish people. They started to move abroad and see things maybe in a different light. Do you think that's true?
Well, lots of us moved abroad, but most of them return for some reason. Like a lot of people return rather than stay. So we always have this thing in Spain, like we come back, right? We come back. We like to live close to the family. And I, with the love that I have for my parents and brother, I love them, but I don't see a reason why to come back. Not yet, at least, right?
Not yet, anyway.
It's different. No. Yeah. In my case, it'll be different.
The subject of languages, foreign languages. So I've seen rankings of countries in terms of their familiarity with foreign languages. Spain doesn't do particularly well. English-speaking countries do really badly. So countries like Ireland and the UK and the US were very bad at foreign languages. And I've come across, Spaniards a lot of the time. The issue for them going abroad is languages. And we've already seen that you're well on top of your English. It's perfect. So how did you deal with the language situation? So living in Germany first, and now in the Czech Republic.
Well, thanks for that. Firstly about English, I've been a very, very, very lucky Spaniard. Because and this goes like a shout out to my parents. When me and my brother were kids, they like between the ages of 9 and 12, 13, something like that. We used to have au pairs that would take care of us at home, and then we would be speaking English all the time. So we were lucky enough to learn the language without any effort. By watching The Lion King, Aladdin, all those kinds of movies that they would bring from England. Mm-hmm. And constantly be speaking English, and we were lucky in this regard, right? So it's always like that's something that I'll always be thankful to my parents for. And then the second thing is German. I was able to learn German. I lived in Germany. I ended up living in Germany 5 years. I'm fluent. I lost now because I have been away for the last 5 years. But when I got there, I couldn't even order a Mac menu in McDonald's in German, right? That's how I always put it, right? I had to turn to English, and the German culture I love it, and it has this thing that when you're in a meeting, for example, you're forced to learn German if you want to understand what they're talking about, right? They would have the meetings in German. They wouldn't change to English because there were like 2 people that wouldn't speak English, right? So that would speak German. So you had to do it, right? And then my last thing is Czech. I cannot even say a word in Czech, and I've been here for 5 years. And my excuse
is another story, right?
That's a different story. Like I had free Czech classes when I was working for the Czech company. Like when I moved here for this company called Memsource. And they were on Friday morning, 8 in the morning, so I wouldn't go. And on the other side, the Czechs, they understand that the complexity of their language, and they don't sort of impose it to foreigners. And here we live in a community of expats, and they know that we don't speak Czech, and they respect that. So that's pretty neat from them. Yeah. I like it.
And what do you think, apart from the languages, what do you think you have learned living outside Spain for the last number of years that you wouldn't have learned had you stayed at home in Spain?
Oh, yeah. I've learned to see the world from different eyes, right? I mean, whether you are from the north, south, or whatever part of each country, if you don't travel and you don't live abroad, you don't see how people do things in other places, right? You might always think you grew up in Oviedo, you work in your father's business, and you might think that a Czech reacts by the same stimulus as a Spaniard, right? And that's not true. or they relate in the same way, and that's not true. But you can only learn that if you go out there and see it, right? And living abroad, it helps a lot, right? So I've been seeing I'm lucky to see the world. I mean, to be able to see the world through other people's eyes, because I'm living with them and I'm traveling, right? Only last year, I spent 170 days on the road traveling for business. So, and I visited some 15 countries, something like that. Mainly United States, where you get to relate with people from everywhere, Americans, Asians, Latinos. So you understand a lot, right? So yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have learned that if I would have stayed in Oviedo.
Sure. Now, your new initiative, Global Brand Champs, which is a new initiative in the middle of the greatest crisis that has hit the world in the last 100 years. So, I know you've been spending a lot of time lately contacting people all over the world to gather information about what's happening and what new opportunities are out there. So you're launching a new initiative, so you must see some new opportunities out there. What is it that you're seeing?
I think that it's crazy, but last week I was talking to my friend. I was saying, like, I've never seen so much opportunity available for the taking, real big time. I have never seen so many things there. The only thing that you need to do is you need to see the world, to understand that those principles that we were living by, and I think this is a very millennial footprint and a standard. Like, you have to learn to live without stability, right, and with uncertainty. And there's and based on those things, there's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of companies that are offering jobs based on commissions, etc. Like based on not a fixed job but a sidekick, something like that, right? So I found it, like, I've been affected by the crisis, right? I had to renegotiate my conditions with my previous employer. I said, okay, let's move on. Let's do things in a different way. And I said, what am I good at? I'm good at knowing, getting to know people, understanding their pain points, and then connecting them. I think that would be my greatest skill, right? Mm-hmm. I'm using a lot of emotional intelligence to connect with people because I really like them, not because I'm doing it for a purpose of selling them something, right? No, because I really like to understand how people think, how they live, what problems they have. It's fun. I think I find joy in that. So I decided to run this campaign, this Global Brand Champs campaign, or this Global Brand Champs initiative. I started calling people, calling my network, my friends, my family. I called, just to ask a few questions, see if you are suffering in some kind of thing, if you have any trouble that you would like to start. I mean, to solve. And my idea is to connect vendors with buyers, and run initiatives with them, and bring wealth for them and for me, solve problems. Yeah.
And what do you see will be the services of your new business, and how will people's or clients or buyers' condition be improved by working with you?
Oh yeah, what I'm aiming at is like have a better worldwide brand expansion or brand awareness of companies. So I'm basically doing two things. One is for startups, for companies that are just getting their products out there, or they're developing and they need to market it as well, and they have no structure in sales. What I'm doing is I'm basically consulting them and getting it started, getting their sales started, like giving them tips, helping them actually doing the work, doing some communications, etc. Right? That's one of the initiatives, like to get the sales department started, or the sales started in startups. And also, as I said, the second goal of the Global Brand Champs initiative is to connect vendors and buyers and get and create wealth out of that. Mm-hmm. So those would be the two services, right?
Mm-hmm. So, and then the clients that you've been working with or talking to, how has the coronavirus been impacting their business, and how are they reacting, and what kind of permanent changes do you see we'll be left with after the crisis is over?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's I mean. I can differentiate between two reactions: the reactions of the vendors, the reactions of the buyers. But before we get into that, I think, and this is through my personal analysis, it's a bit too early in the development of this crisis because we really don't know how long this is going to last. And I was speaking yesterday. I had a moment of doubt, and I spoke with one of my friends. He's like, well, you have to keep it together. You have to keep straight because you might have to be in this situation for at least 2 years because we don't know, right? So you might have to get used to staying home. A person that like me that has traveled 170 days last year for business, I might have to learn how to do that, right? To how to get to stay home, survive, and thrive there, right? So and then with that in mind, as I said, I see two reactions. I see, like, it surprised me to see that, and I think it's maybe because it's too early in the crisis, like vendors trying to clean up, sort out things, go with the flow, try to, I mean, being less innovative, but trying to serve before the before things get even worse, which probably they will get, and buyers trying to be more innovative. I don't know if it's because the people on the buyer side might be more threatened to lose their jobs or why. But that's what I've seen during this initiative, in which I've been on the phone with almost 40 people from all over the world, right? I felt like there was more initiative on the buyer side than on the vendor side.
So that sounds like there's an opportunity for vendors if they listen to their buyers, right?
Yes. And I was having calls with people that worked in some of the biggest American multinationals, and they were saying, like, you know what, some initiatives that we'd like to do is, like, for example, I was asking about what are the initiatives that you think of, and they were saying things like, for example, like, look, it's a good moment for us to include vendors in our way before in our internal decision process and construction process, right? We're going to need to cut costs, time, etc. So vendors could just jump in a decision stage, and instead of us telling them what to do and how they would react, we could all brainstorm together and get to a process and to a solution that would take us that would be more cost effective and shorter in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that I got from a very big sports brand in America, and I would not forget that. But as I said, the point is, like, the innovation from my end came more from the vendor, from the buyer side, than from the vendor, right?
Yeah.
Instead of being the vendor that comes to the client and say, okay, guys, look, we can do this, and that. Why don't we do this? How does that sound, right? Or you know.
Now, the way you have internationalized yourself, I guess in part is due to a small part of this big process of globalization that has gone on. And I guess the European Union is part of that, and the fact that we can live in each other's countries and so on. And that has progressed quite rapidly over the last 40, 50 years. You know, see global supply chains and all sorts of products that we have access to, the ability to travel and so on. And you obviously have an internationalist vocation in that sense. But I guess in the last number of years, we've seen things like countervailing influences like protectionism, rising nationalism, trade wars, and now we have the coronavirus. So from your point of view, where do you think this whole globalization thing is at now, and where do you think it's going in the future?
I think this is a great question, and I am the person to reply to this, because I always work with globalization managers. Believe it or not, all the biggest multinationals out there, I don't know if you're aware, but one of the best rewarded positions in companies like Uber, GoPro, Square, name them, based out of Silicon Valley, WhatsApp, Facebook, they have a position that is precisely the globalization manager or the globalization architect. You know, depending on, it's more strategical or more more technical, right? Depends. And so I work with those people from the biggest corporations out there, right? And I help them to penetrate markets in a better way, with better translations, with more automation in the process, right? So I think, like, I was precisely thinking about this, and after I saw a reportage last week on Spanish television, which was about how globalization is positively and negatively impacting, right? This coin or this sword has two sides, right? Nothing without a control is is, I mean, is positive, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like globalization without control can get to, all of these things that are happening right now with big corporates collapsing because they've been too big and they cannot even afford to keep their head count. And it needs some regulations, right? Like you cannot I think there should be some points that should be tackled to regulate them, right? But on the other side, nationalism, protectionism, autarky, that's something that is, I think that's something from the 19th century. We should be well above that, but also helping the local business, right? So there's, as I said, there's like two sides of the coin here, right?
It's probably going through a transformation. So maybe not going back to the 19th century, but definitely maybe globalization Mark II or Mark III. So a new version of globalization, perhaps.
Yes. I agree. There has to be some limitation, right?
Yeah.
We cannot have companies like all these airlines collapsing right now after they've done a massive globalized expansion, right? There's something wrong there, right? What it is,
where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? Do you intend to stay living internationally outside your home country, or do you see yourself back in Spain at some point in the future?
Well, that's a good question. And as a millennial, I'm going to say that I don't know. Like, we don't know nothing, right? We don't know. I don't know. Like, I might say, I want to go back to Spain. And then in 2024, we do this podcast again. And I might be living in New York or in Tokyo. Who knows, right? Because, as I said, for us, the millennials, the tonic is definitely uncertainty, flexibility, and living and thriving with that, right? Which is the thing that our parents, fortunately for them, or unfortunately, I don't know, they didn't go through, right? Most of them, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. If I would like to go to Spain right now, well, I don't know. Maybe.
You're open-minded on the question, yeah?
Yes. That's an open question. Yeah.
Outside of work and business, what kind of things do you like to do in your free time, in your spare time?
Oh, yeah. Like I do a lot of sports. I like running. I try to do sports 5 to 6 days a week minimum. Mm-hmm. An hour of running. Now it's biking season here. It has started. And actually, we're lucky here in Czech Republic, where I'm based, as you said at the beginning, because we're one of the countries. I mean, we have up to today like less than 7,000 cases of infected people. So the measures there's already a plan set for us to be able to go outside for reopening of businesses, etc. And now biking and running are allowed if you do individually without the protection of the mask, right? So I guess I'm hoping. I went biking last week for the first time without the mask, which is compulsory here. And I am looking at starting to do that like all on a more regular basis, right? From now on, especially since this summer we won't be traveling anywhere for holidays, right?
Are you missing the fact that there's no football on the television?
I do, big time.
Who do you support? I believe you're different from your dad, right? In the teams you support.
Well, he's not a big football fan. Me and my brother were Barca fans to death. I think this is something that came from him when we were kids. He was like super, super crazy. We were like, Cruyff times Barca fans. And we've been like really hardcore Barca fans for the last 30 something years. And then, in the local, my brother supports Oviedo and I support Sporting. So that's where the controversy goes. Like Sporting, I mean, for those who listen and they don't know, Oviedo and Gijón.
Are you not viewed as some sort of a traitor, being from Oviedo and supporting Gijón?
No, because all this from my mother's side, they're all from Gijón, and they were like my grandfather was an associate to the Sporting club for like 50 years. My uncle as well. Here they received this the pin that the club gives when you are for fidelity, or like over 50 years of fidelity. So and trust. So no, nothing. No. It's entitled. There's a reason to do that.
You're a fairly avid reader as well, I think. Is that right? You read quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I do. I'm more of a I like to read as more like a millennial, as I said. Like somebody puts out a topic there, and I go and research, and I know what it is about, and I go deep on that. But I also read a few books, not as many as I should read a year, that's for sure. But for example, now I'm reading these two books that I think they're super interesting. I'm a history and archaeology fan, like to death. Every summer I try to travel to a new country. I decided, that's on top of my traveling for business. I do that. And I said like 3 years ago that every year I should go and travel to visit one of the wonders of the ancient world. And I've done that over the last couple years, right? In Turkey, which was the ancient Greek culture, right?
Yeah.
And apart from the ancient world, I am super passionate about the medieval history, and I love the Crusades move. So I'm reading a book now called The Crusades, precisely, by an author called Thomas Asprich, which is a professor. I think it's in Oxford and Cambridge universities. He's English, and it's super cool because he's one of those medieval movies advisor, historical advisor, etc. And he has super good points all the time, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm reading I'm trying to, since we have a lot of time to be home now and not to be in a plane and traveling, I'm trying to improve my prospecting skills in terms of looking for good business opportunities, which is my middle name. That's what I do. Since I connect, I try to be looking for them. So I'm reading a book that is called Analytical Prospecting by Jeff Blount, an American author. It's very interesting as well. It's the kind of like American sales literature.
Yeah.
Pretty pushy, like limits, no limits, high targets, and do, right?
Yeah. So, where can listeners find out more about you, about your new business, your services? Website, email, social media, and so on.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, social media is the most important thing, especially as I said, and I'm an advocate for millennials. That should be key for us. So first way of contacting me is on LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn it goes by my name, of course, but I have a very long Spanish name, Javier Diaz Fernandez Carvajal. So my mother's second. In Spain we have two second names. And the second one belongs to the mother, and then my mother's name is a composed name, so it's pretty long. I have to admit that when I'm abroad, I never use it. In Prague, I'm registered everywhere as Javier Diaz, because the systems they use most of the times don't even accept a second name. Yeah. So that's the thing as well.
If somebody plugs in Javier with a J and then Diaz, Diaz, that will turn you up, I guess. Yeah.
I think so because I am pretty well positioned. I'm positioning myself well on LinkedIn, doing a lot of, sort of more content that people are interested in, like something that inspires people to do, or to, whenever you need a positive message to read, I'm trying to be there, helping the community, and, that helps. It's better to read a positive sentence than a complaint, in my understanding. So if you probably look for Javier Diaz on LinkedIn, it'll show up. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Javi. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Keep well, keep safe, and look after yourself.
You too. Thanks to you and to your listeners. Hope to see you soon.
Very welcome. And thanks also to our listeners. Remember that if you would like to find out more about globalization, international business, and how we can help you to formulate and implement business strategies, check out my blog and website on albalogistics.com, and my book, International Supply Chain Relationships, which can be purchased on Amazon and Google Books. This is Patrick Daly of Alba Consulting. Goodbye and keep well until the next time.